Hello again. Keir Starmer went to Italy a few days ago to try and find out how the Italians have managed to reduce illegal immigration to their country so dramatically. There is no mystery about this. Italy pays huge sums of money to Libya under the so-called Memorandum of Understanding between the two countries, which is essentially protection money, which Libya is extorting from Italy. As long as the cash keeps coming, Libya will stop boats full of illegal immigrants leaving their shores. Of course, if the cash should dry up, then Libya would start sending more economic migrants in Italy's direction. Italy is also a partner with the European Union in paying Tunisia hefty sums so that they too will prevent boats leaving their country and heading for Europe. What could be wrong with this policy? It seems to work because illegal immigration from North Africa to Italy has been reduced by 80% in a single year. If it works, why not? The reason that this is a bad idea is that the present setup is identical to one which existed 250 years ago between some European countries and the states of North Africa. It's absolutely the same racket being worked. The money extorted at that time was called tribute, but it was exactly the same nature as what we are seeing now, and the purpose was the same: to prevent boats leaving Tunisia, Libya, and Algeria. It might be interesting to look back on what happened at that time so that we can gain a little perspective on what is going on now. In the 17th and 18th centuries, pirates and slave traders setting out from North Africa caused a lot of trouble in the Mediterranean and further afield by boarding ships, stealing the cargo, and carrying off the crew to sell as slaves. These people were the so-called Barbary pirates. When European countries complained, the rulers of territories like Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli claimed there was nothing that they could do about it because this was the work of criminals over whom they had no control. Again, exactly what the governments of Tunisia and Libya have been saying before they started being paid about the small boats crossing the Mediterranean. The British launched an attack on Tunis in 1655 to put a stop to this sort of thing, and after that British ships were left alone for a while. But then the trouble began again. Because wars are so expensive, and the idea of sending a fleet off to North Africa every year or so to try and put pressure on the people there, it was decided that it might be better to try another method of dealing with the problem. The rulers of those places, like Tunis and Algiers, had found the piracy profitable because they took a share of the proceeds of slavery and looting. It was suggested to European countries that if they were to deliver what was termed tribute to the rulers of the North African states, then it might somehow be possible to prevent the ships sailing from their shores. So it was that Britain and France and other countries began paying North African states to stop engaging in piracy. This was much cheaper than launching wars every year. It will be seen at once that this is a very similar situation to that which we now see, and that it's really no more than a protection racket. It was a protection racket in the 18th century, and it's a protection racket now. Denmark sent a fleet to try and use force to stop the piracy, but it was a waste of time, and Spain invaded part of North Africa and was then forced to withdraw. Of course, the price demanded kept increasing, and this is also something we are seeing today. Countries like Libya and Tunisia are well aware that the boats crossing the Mediterranean are a very big issue in Europe, and they realise that countries like Italy and also Britain fork out huge amounts of money if it means fewer Africans fetching up in Europe. Any time that there is any reluctance on the part of European countries to keep handing over the money, then the flow of migrants is allowed to start up again. Looking back again to the 18th century, when the Napoleonic Wars began and Europe had more important things to deal with than paying money to Tunis, the piracy and slavery began once more. This too has parallels in the current state of affairs, because if Italy or other European countries become distracted or involved in wars or internal problems and stop paying attention to the North African nations and giving them millions of pounds, then they'll see the boats leaving for Europe once more. This is not a long-term solution to the problem. Of course, we in Britain have been paying hundreds of millions of pounds to France and asking them to stop the boats being launched from their territory, but with meagre results. That's another kind of protection racket. The only thing that nation states can do in a situation like this is to secure their own borders without reference to anybody else and without giving way to anybody else, because weakness simply makes the situation worse, as we saw in the 18th century and as we are seeing today.